From Lil Peep popping pills till he OD'd on camera to Indian Red Boy getting smoked on IG Live, we're breaking down the 15 most disturbing last recordings of rappers, kicking it off with the latest one involving Julio Foolio.
We just got here, bruh. You got to add it. You got to add it, man. Push up. We just got to this bit. We came deep for my birthday, man. Everybody coming up to stare. No cap, man. You know what I'm saying?
June 23, 2024, 26-year-old Florida rapper Julio Foolio was shot dead while celebrating his 26th birthday in Tampa, Florida. Foolio, real name Charles Jones, started his rap career back in 2017, racking up tens of millions of streams on Spotify. Known for his gritty yet deeply emotional trap sound, making him one of the dopest in the game, he'd get to work with top dogs like Zaytoven, Blueface, and G Herbo. When he dropped his album Resurrection in April 2024, Foolio made it clear that with multiple attempts on his life, he just kept surviving. And props to that guy, cause he was for reals a survivor. He and his homies were so deep in street business that by the age of 20, he'd already lost 15 of his homies to violence, been shot as a teen, and spent years behind bars. For the most part, he'd been standing on business and was never caught lacking, until a nurse at a hospital he goes to leaked his address online. He ended up suing the nurse in the hospital, but wouldn't get to live long enough to see the end of it, because less than a year later, he got dropped at his own party. On Saturday, June 22nd, Foolio posted a ton of videos on social media, telling his homies to pull up for his birthday party in Tampa. The videos were all over X and Instagram, and after his homies pulled up, Foolio kept sharing party details for his fans.
Hey, the pool party start today at 5, 6 o'clock. If you already got the address, pull up, man. You got the address, pull up. If you need the address, DM me right now. The pool party. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? We deep as hell. We deep as hell, 20 deep, lit.
But as his fans watched, so did his ops. Foolio and the crew eventually got kicked out of their Tampa Airbnb for exceeding occupancy limits. His entire crew then relocated to Home 2 Suites by Hilton in Tampa. And as Foolio and a few homies chilled in 2 parked cars outside the building, a group of armed men pulled up on him and glazed everybody up with choppas. Foolio and 3 others were hit, but he was the only one who died from the attack. Photos of his beaten-up face were all over social media, and while the fans mourned the aftermath, it wasn't nearly as bad as Indian Red Boy's death, which his fans watched in real time.
There's a male in his 20s that was shot and killed inside this car. There are a lot of bullet holes inside that windshield. We zoomed in earlier. Man who was shot in the face and died at the...
Around 4:10 p.m. on July 8th, 2021, LA rapper Zarel Rivera, who went by the name Indian Red Boy, got smoked in Hawthorne while IG living with a friend inside a car. And many said that this was payback for him dissing Nipsey Hussle. Indian Red Boy was allegedly down with the Bloods, while Nipsey was all about the rollin' 60s Crips. And after Nipsey got taken out outside his Marathon clothing store in South Central LA on March 31, 2019, a mural went up for him in Crenshaw, but it got hit up twice in 1 week with red paint that read in part, "Victory Lap HBD." Word on the street was that the Bloods did it, and the guy behind it was 21-year-old Indian Red Boy. So on the day it went down, Red Boy pulled up to the back of a gated apartment complex at the 14100 block of Chatron Avenue. He hopped on IG Live with his homie Capone, and both dudes were all smiles and laughs while thousands would watch, but out of nowhere, a shooter rolls up on Red Boy's car window and let off at least 12 close-up shots. Folks heard those shots, and Red Boy tried to block them with his hands before he slumped into his seat.
Damn about that, fool. I got these.
Now the next scene that unfolded was horrifying to watch as Red Boy struggled to say his final words while his homie tried finding out his location.
Blood, what the Where you at?
Most clips of the incident got taken offline, but some YouTube users and bloggers kept copies. In the end though, Indian Red Boy with over 16,000 followers on IG and a rising rap career got caught in 4K by his ops as his life faded away. It had to be a slow and painful death. But that ain't the case with teen rapper Rio Huncho, who straight up blew his brains out while recording TikToks. May 16, 2024. Teen rapper Rio Huncho, real name Raleigh Freeman III, was found dead in his Virginia crib. Now, Rio was popping with the teens on social media, having dropped at least 10 tracks and over 2,000 listeners on Spotify. Some of his bangers include Money Getta, Bag Talk, and La La La. And right before he passed, he dropped a track called Get Us earlier in May. He was the only son of his mom, Monica Savage, who was his ride or die, raising solo to chase his dreams. But on the day he died, Monica wasn't there to have his back no mo. That day, Rio was flexing on his IG story showing off a handgun, but off-screen, he was recording a video for TikTok.
Look, I got that 30 on that. Yeah.
Cops got called to the scene and he was pronounced dead a few hours later. Now here's the deal. No one's certain if Huncho was running with a crew, but judging by his lyrics and what he posted on IG with over 27,000 followers, it seemed like he might have had some ties. He would even post a TikTok vid flashing what looked like the same piece he ended up using, so he'd been holding on to it for a minute. Rio's crew set up a GoFundMe to handle his funeral costs and support Monica during that tough time. They aimed to raise 15 G's and already pulled in over 8 in donations. That cash definitely helped out Monica with Huncho's funeral, but you know how it is. Money make people do stupid shit, like the dudes that took out XXXtentacion in an armed robbery. June 18, 2018. José Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy, aka XXXtentacion, hit up the Bank of America to grab some cash before rolling to Riva Motorsports, a bougie spot for bikes and boats in Deerfield Beach, Florida. And this was the last time he was seen alive. And that dude in the black ended up being one of the dudes that took XXX's life. Tentacion was a huge inspiration for the generation. He dropped his first track News Flock on SoundCloud back in 2013, and 5 years later, he was pulling in millions of listeners on Spotify. His come-up was wild, but the drama in his life only intensified. He once admitted to beating his pregnant girl, Geneva Ayala, and stabbing 9 people. He would beef with other artists, and even stir up drama in music videos showing him lynching a white dude. Still, his music was deep, touching on depression, loneliness, and suicide. He was on the verge of something big, but now we'll never know. On the day he got smoked, though, Tentacion spent almost half an hour inside the dealership with his uncle, Leonard Kerr. When he bounced and got his BMW i8, a Dodge SUV with 3 dudes inside cuts him off and blocks his path. 2 robbers, Newsom and Boatwright, hopped out packing, demanding his stuff. They tussled quick, with Newsom clocking Tentacion and snatching his chain. Onfroy's uncle would bail, leaving the car door open, while Newsom jumped in and grabbed Onfroy's Louis Vuitton $50,000 bag. But Boatwright wasn't done. He went back to Onfroy's whip, looked him dead in the eyes, and let off shots, killing him cold. Right after Onfroy's death, the Broward County Sheriff's Office threw up $3,000 reward for info on the killers. At first, fans and locals pointed fingers at Florida rappers Soldier Kid and Soulja JoJo because of some sketchy IG posts they put up. But those accusations dropped when the real culprits got busted. All 3 got slapped with first-degree murder and robbery with firearm charges, locking them up for life without parole. Now his killers are all doing the time, but FBG Cash's killers are probably still out there living it up. FBG Cash, a Southside rapper rolling with the drill rap crew, Flyboy Gang, got taken out in 2022. Now back in 2020, his crewmate FBG Duck, real name Carlton Weekly, was fatally shot as well, in what cops called a targeted gang hit. FBG Duck's death sparked a lot of community activism, and cops worrying about the payback. But just 2 years later, FBG was hit again, with Cash getting smoked all over some beef about Von's mural. You see, just months before he got smoked, FBG Cash was on the No Jumper podcast talking about Lil Durk and Von. He took a disrespectful pic from King Von's mural at the Chicago apartment where Von grew up. And not long after taking that photo, he went on No Jumper, detailing the conversation he had with Lil Durk via text to Adam22. In his words, he said,
"Conversation were you having before he told you to go take this photo?"
Me, go over there and do that and see what happened to you. I'm outside right now.
You hit him up?
Yeah.
This got heated quick, and Lil Durk dropped a subtle diss to FBG Cash in his song Computer Murderers, when he said, "Sneaking pics by Von mural like Lil Bro won't come out and spin." And just 3 months later, FBG Cash got smoked.
A Southside rapper was killed this morning after a gunman armed with a rifle opened fire on his car. 31-year-old Tristan Hamilton performed under the name FBG Cash.
At 5:32 a.m. on June 10th, 2022, Cash and a girl were chilling in his ride, parked on a street, when a black sedan would roll up and an unknown offender would get out and open fire. Cash was struck with multiple gunshots before he was taken to Christ Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The girl with him caught some shots as well, but pulled through. Now the streets are saying O-Block might have been behind the hit cause Cash was big with the crew. But O-Block also took an L when King Von got smoked outside a club.
Von was just he was a different individual, bro. Human, man. You're not regular, man. The devil, man. That nigga, devil, man.
King Von is one of the only few demons we done seen die.
King Von, born to Von Daquan Bennett, was a Chicago-born rapper. From the get-go, he was a street kid running with the Black Disciples and O-Block legends like Chief Keef. Now, Von was no stranger to trouble, getting locked up at 16 and again at 18 for toting a burner. Folks say he put in mad work for his gang, rumored to have bodied 4 to 5 people, earning him the nickname Rap Serial Killer. No one really knows how true all that is though, but we do know Von was trying to switch it up, inspired by Lil Durk and other homies making it big in the rap game. In 2018, Lil Durk signed him to OTF, and Von dropped his banger, Crazy Story. With Durk's backing, the track blew up, putting Von on the map. Yeah, he still had run-ins with the cops and even got locked up again, but that all just boosted his fame. Von and Lil Durk went on tours, and Von started leaving the street life behind to focus on his rap career. But the streets didn't forget him, and sadly it caught up with him. November 6th, 2020, Von and the crew left Opium nightclub and hit up the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta. While at Opium, he was recorded vibing and chilling with his homies.
Hey, you know, it's all love and this bitch gonna tee up. I done dropped that on that Welcome to O-Block, that bitch going crazy. I don't wanna thank nobody, you know.
Sadly for him, that would be his last recorded video alive, as the next one was retrieved from surveillance footage, showing Von getting into it with a nop, Quando Rondo. What started as this heated argument turned deadly real quick. Quando Rondo and King Von threw hands, and then Rondo's boy Lil Tim pulled up and shot Von up, killing him on the spot. One of Von's homies would shoot back and 2 cops would fire from different spots as well. It was wild, and there's different versions of what went down, but we know dudes got shot and Von along with 2 others lost their lives. Now Von was confirmed dead at the hospital, but fellow rapper Lil Peep was confirmed dead in his van after recording his last moments alive. Lil Peep, real name Gustav Elijah R., blew up on SoundCloud with his 2015 single, Star Shoppin', and even got bigger with mixtapes, Lil Peep Part 1 and Live Forever later that year. However, as Peep became a big name in the game, his drug use went through the roof. He would open about battling depression, anxiety, and substance abuse, even saying that he had a bipolar disorder. But for some reason, he never got meds for his depression. Folks around him tried to help, but he chose to find comfort in smoking weed and popping whatever drugs he could get. He talked about his addictions to cocaine, ecstasy, and Xanax in his lyrics and on social media, calling himself a productive junkie. But he told his fans to stay away from drugs, and maybe he should have taken his own advice. November 15th, 2017, Peep was found dead on his tour bus by his manager before his show in Tucson, Arizona. There's some messed up details here, and many fans think that his management dropped the ball. Hours before he passed, Peep posted on Instagram saying he'd taken mushrooms and cannabis concentrate. He also said he popped 6 Xans and showed himself trying to drop another pill into his mouth, finally swallowing one and shaking a full prescription bottle.
Heavy rain, yo. Regin.
He did it! I almost to death.
That was the last video of Lil Peep before he OD'd. And it wasn't until 5 hours later that emergency services were called, meaning in that much time nobody checked on him, which his fans say was messed up because maybe if someone did, he could have survived. Now at the hospital, doctors found a mix of drugs in his system besides Xanax. He tested positive for weed, cocaine, and the painkiller tramadol. And a few weeks after his passing, his mom, Lisa Womack, hit Lil Peep's management, FAE Group, with wrongful death charges, saying they pushed him to use the drugs even though they knew he was struggling. Now, the lawsuit was eventually settled outside of court, but just like Lil Peep, rapper Big Scar died from an OD. But in his case, fans got to see the whole thing live.
Where you going, cuz? Cuz, where you going, cuz?
Big Scar, real name Alexander Woods, was born on April 7, 2000, growing up in the Magnolia community of South Memphis, Tennessee, where he was one of 9 children, living with his grandma till she passed when he was 13. 3 years later, he would get into a car accident, leaving scars on his face, making him go with the nickname Big Scar. Well, here's the drill. Scar wasn't always rapping and stuff, but he took interest when one homie, Baby K, put him in the game. He released his first track, Make a Play, in 2019, receiving thousands of YouTube views. And by next year, he would ink a deal with Gucci Mane's record label, 1017 Records, under Atlantic Records, where he debuted a label compilation album, Gucci Mane Presents So Icy Summer, and then Soulcy Boys Collective featuring Pooh Shiesty, Fujiano, and Tay Keith. Now, Scar's motion in the game was going up in his debut mixtape, Big Grim Reaper, peaking at number 25 on the Billboard 200, making it his first solo charting project. He was wavy, but at the same time, ops were checking him out. In 2020, Scar was shot in the hip and the bullet traveled to his spine. This required doctors to remove his appendix and also realign his right leg, making him spend weeks hospitalized. At the same time, he was dealing with drug addiction, depression, and a bunch of other stuff. On the day he passed away, he went live on IG, and trust me when I say he looked high as fuck.
Where you going, cuz? Cuz, where you going, cuz?
Guy was stuttering and couldn't make coherent sentences. But after we went off, Scar OD'd on prescribed medication at his girlfriend's house. He passed away at 22 years old, a year younger than Juice WRLD, who also died in a similar fashion. OD. In his last video, Juice WRLD recorded himself on a flight from California to Chicago, and shortly after landing at the airport, he passed away. Gerard Anthony Higgins, better yet known as Juice WRLD, was a Chicago rapper who blew up with his hit track, Lucid Dreams. That song hit number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, and was one of the biggest streaming tracks of 2018. His fame would take him to Travis Scott's Astroworld album, The Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack, and also collabs with BTS's RM and Suga. Juice wasn't just rising, this guy was shooting at the stars. But just like some rappers today, he was fighting battles with depression and substance abuse. Juice had been deep in the drugs from early on and talked openly about it. His mom said that he was also dealing with anxiety and depression. Juice had agreed to rehab, but sadly he didn't make it there. December 8th, 2019, 6 days after his 21st birthday, Juice and the crew were flying privately to Chicago. However, feds were already at the airport waiting for his arrival, tipped off about contraband on board. Some say the pilot was snitching. From here, the story isn't really clear, but some sources claim that after the plane landed at Midway Airport and federal agents informed Juice WRLD's crew that they'd be searching the plane, to hide the drugs, he popped several Percocets, but he started seizing and collapsed. He was then rushed to the Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn, Illinois, where he briefly woke up, but didn't make it. Now, reports confirm that he suffered from an OD of oxycodone and codeine. They also found over 70 pounds of weed, 6 bottles of prescription codeine cough syrup, 2 9mm pistols, a .40 caliber pistol, and a high-capacity ammunition magazine with metal-piercing bullets. So, moving on to the next, we have a case of a South African rapper, aka, who got smoked right after vibing with his homies in a restaurant. Aka, real name Kiernan Forbes, was born January 28, 1988. Growing up in Mitchell's Plain, one of the roughest spots in Cape Town, full of gangsters and drugs, he would later move down to Joburg with his mom and went to St. John's College, a top school in South Africa, where he kicked off his music grind with a hip-hop crew called Entity, featuring Sizwe Bofu Walsh and Lanla McKenna. After that crew split, aka started dropping beats for artists like Pro Kid and Kuli Chana. He later linked up with big names like Burna Boy, Da Les, Nasty C, and Questa to blow up his own career. While aka was making waves in South Africa's hip-hop scene, his personal life stayed under the spotlight, with his high-profile relationships and breakups splashing across all gossip mags. He was linked with DJ Sinklay, and they had a daughter before they called it quits. Then in 2021, things got real heavy when his then-fiancée, Anele Tembe, tragically died after falling from a hotel room in Cape Town. People thought it was suicide, but her dad, Moses Tembe, denied that at her funeral. AKA then dropped a single called Tears Run Dry in her memory, but then videos leaked showing him fighting, with him breaking down doors and getting really aggressive. AKA in turn denied being abusive, and prosecutors decided not to press charges, which was a relief for him. But little did he know that his time on Earth was almost over. February 10th, 2023, AKA was seen having drinks with his homies inside the Wish on Florida restaurant in Dublin.
Okay, you go, let's go! Wherever I go.
That was the last video recording of him while he was still alive, as this next one was from CCTV, which caught a dude in a white sweater and a hat crossing the street, walking up to AKA and blasting him twice in the head, killing him on the spot. AKA was gunned down alongside his longtime friend Tabello Teebs Motzone. 5 suspects had been arrested, but at the end of the day, no one's really convicted, and no one can tell who the real killer is, unlike LA Capone's killer, who was caught almost immediately after taking the rapper's life. LA Capone, real name Leonard Anderson, born September 18, 1996, would grow up in Southside Chicago, but in his middle school years, he would move to Atlanta, Georgia with his father. Later on, he returned back to Chi-Town after his father's death in 2009, becoming close homies with Lil Durk. He popped up in some of Durk's music videos, and just like Chief Keef and Durk, he was rolling with the Black Disciples. You'd catch him in videos with Rondo No. 9 and his stepbro Quap, reppin' GDK, slang for Gangsta Disciples Killer, cause the GDs are the Black Disciples Ops. Now, early 2012, LA Capone would be featured in King Bruce and Rondo No. 9's track titled We Grimy, which was known to be LA Capone's first song. And just 8 months later, Capone uploaded his first solo music video on YouTube titled Work. Dude was gaining traction in the industry, but it all got taken away barely a year into it.
What that is though? Just record. This gonna be a hit song, man. You recording this? Get this on camera, man. Get on. What that is though?
That was the last video recorded of LA Capone before he got murked. He was recording at the studio when he stepped out around 6 p.m. to look for his girlfriend down the street. But as he was walking down the alley near 70th Street and Stony Island Ave, LA Capone was approached by an assailant who fired 4 shots at him, hitting him in his thigh and his back. Upon hearing the shooting, Lil Durk tweeted his wishes for him to get better, but later found out that Capone died from the injuries sustained. There were many speculations on who his killer was, but it didn't take long for the cops to figure it out, because before his death, Capone's gang was at war with numerous gangs, like the OG Gangsta Gang. LA even dissed one of their dead homies in this song, Play for Keeps, in which he said, "Shondale, how hot this shit feel?" Regardless, the gang who most people believe was behind the murder was 051 Young Money, and truly, they were. July 23, 2014, Michael Mays, aka Rockhead, a gang member from Young Money 051, who was locked up in Cook County Jail for stealing a vehicle, decided to tell detectives he had knowledge of Capone's murder. He then snitched on his homie, telling him that the shooter was Saki Hardy Johnson, aka Lil Mick, who was also a member of Young Money 051. Rockhead also admitted to being involved in the murder, leading the cops to arrest Lil Mick. He was arrested and charged with Capone's murder, but with a third individual named Miko Buchanan from a gang called Met Boys 051. Miko was sentenced to 45 years, with Rockhead, the snitch, getting 21. And ultimately, Lil Mick, the shooter, was sentenced to 60 years. But surprisingly, in 2022, Lil Mick decided to appeal his sentence and won, meaning he'll be out sooner than we think. But sometimes rappers in life get out sooner than we think. Take the case of Pop Smoke's murder. This was one of Smoke's last vids, just hours before he got taken out. What was his mistake? He got caught slipping. At 2 a.m. on February 19th, a black Beamer rolls up by the crib Pop Smoke was renting in Hollywood Hills. The whip circled back, parked up, and a passenger hopped out, sneaking around the back before dipping a minute later. Then the car peeled off. Pop Smoke was chilling at the studio on Sunset Boulevard at the time. He would come back 2 hours later, and this time, an Infiniti pulls up with the lights off, 4 dudes in hoodies, one masked up and strapped, broke in to rob him. They say Pop was taking a shower when they busted in, and when he heard the commotion, he tried to fight him off, and sadly it would end with his death. 10 minutes later, 3 of them run back to the car, all caught on camera. The 4th dude, though, strolls out the front door, holding a purse and a piece. Pop Smoke, real name Bashar Baraka Jackson, went out in a senseless and bold way. It made no damn sense. Reports say it was teenagers committing a random robbery, but they ended up taking one of rap's brightest young stars. The LAPD got a call from the East Coast about the home invasion. 6 minutes later, cops show up and find Pop in a pool of his own blood, shot up. They rushed him to Cedars-Sinai, but a few hours later he was pronounced dead, just 20 years old. The crazy part, his last posts played a major role in his murder. At first, the cops thought it was all gang-related because of his ties to the Crips, but earlier that day, Pop Smoke posted pics flexing with cash, designer gear, and a luxury ride. His boy Mike D also shared pics, and you could see part of the house's address in the background. It seemed harmless until Pop posted a story on IG and Facebook showing designer bags with his house's full address visible on the package, matching what was in D's post. On July 9th, 2020, 3 grown men and 2 minors were arrested for his murder. One adult got hit with a murder charge with special circumstances for killing during a robbery and burglary, and another got charged with attempted murder. It's messed up knowing no sentence will bring Pop Smoke back, but his legacy lives on. And the same goes for young Dolph, who got smoked while in the hood. November 17th, 2021, young Dolph got gunned down in Memphis while stopping by Makeda's homemade butter cookies, a spot he always hit up when he was back home. The death wasn't just the end of a career, it shook Hollywood to its core. Born July 27th, 1985, young Dolph, real name Adolph Robert Thornton, was hitting the music scene hard from early on. He blew up with his feature on OT Genesis's 2015 track, Cut It, which climbed to number 35 on the Hot 100. The next year, he dropped his debut album, King of Memphis, hitting number 9 on the Billboard 200. From there, he kept dropping heat, each project making waves. Signed to Paper Route Empire, his biggest success came with 2020's Rich Slave, debuting at number 4 on the Billboard 200, the highest spot he reached. Now, Dolph's grind was real, and he was out there winning, but not everybody was happy about it. You see, back in September 2017, young Dolph got shot outside a retail spot in Hollywood, leaving him in critical condition. He would spend 2 weeks in the hospital, recovering from 3 gunshot wounds, and folks thought that it was payback for his album, Bulletproof, which dropped earlier that year. Now, seems like some folks took his bars too seriously, and a few years later, they came for him again. On that day, a fan took a video of him getting gas, and then another took a pic of Dolph walking into the bakery. Sadly, these would be the 2 last recordings of him. 2 shooters in a white Benz took his life. Hundreds pulled up to the scene, showing love and mourning the loss of a real one. Dolph was known for giving back, handing out turkeys on Thanksgiving, and doing mad charity work. He even dropped $20,000 for 2 baristas at Duke University, who got fired for playing his track Get Paid. He was all about lifting his people up, yet he got taken out for nothing. Another dude out there who used to lift people up would be one of the greats, Tupac Shakur. That was the second to last video ever recorded of Pac before his demise, as the final footage showed him getting into a fight that many say cost him his life. But the drama didn't start that night. It would kick off 2 years before when Pac got shot up during a robbery in a Manhattan studio lobby, where he was working on Me Against the World. Pac blamed Puff Daddy and Biggie for that hit, which fueled him to roll with Death Row Records out in LA, sparking the infamous East Coast-West Coast beef that defined the 90s rap scene. It's good times. Now, on the night it all went down, Pac and his crew were caught on tape at MGM Grand, throwing down a dude who turned out to be a Crip before the Mike Tyson fight. Pac was laying hands on him until hotel security broke it up, and after that he changed and headed to Club 662 for a charity gig, but never made it there. While seated in the passenger seat with Suge Knight behind the wheel, a white caddy rolls up beside him and the shooter in the back seat lets off from a .40 Glock at Tupac's BMW. Pac gets hit 4 times, chest, arm, thigh, and a lung shot. Bullet fragments also caught Suge in the head too, but he managed to drive a mile away to Las Vegas Boulevard, where paramedics showed up. A few days later, it was announced Tupac had died from his injuries. And here we have Takeoff, another rapper whose death and last recordings were quite traumatizing to watch.
This is surveillance video of Takeoff and Quavo, along with their entourage, walking into Houston's Johnny Dang & Company Custom Jewelry.
November 1st, 2022, after a private party at 810 Billiards and Bowling in Houston's Green Street, Takeoff got brutally shot up in the head and torso. Born Krishnik Kari Ball on June 18, 1994, he was raised by his mom in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Takeoff would start messing with beats in 7th grade, but didn't really start taking off until 2011 when he teamed up with his uncle, Quavo, and cousin Offset to form Migos. In 2013, Migos blew up with Versace, which Drake later remixed, and after that they polished up their sound with mixtapes and collabs with folks like Gucci Mane and Justin Bieber, dropping their first album, Young Rich Nation, in 2015. These guys racked up 2 Grammy nominations, one for rap performance for Bad and Bougie, and another for the 2017 album Culture. In 2018, they snagged the ASCAP Vanguard Award for the banger Motorsport featuring Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. But despite all the success, things went downhill in 2020 when Takeoff got hit with a civil suit for sexual battery and assault. He could have been prosecuted, but before any court dates, he was murdered. On that day, about 40 folks were outside the bowling alley after the party. Out of nowhere, a fight would break out on the 3rd floor entrance, and guns started blazing, with stray bullets hitting Takeoff. A nurse nearby heard the shots, rushed over, and found Takeoff in a pool of blood. She checked that pulse, but he was already gone when medics arrived. Footage from the scene shows Quavo in an orange shirt and others around Takeoff. They tried to move him, but then they laid him back down as Quavo shouted for help. Even crazier, Takeoff had posted a pic of himself smoking with the song Stop Breathing by Playboi Carti on his IG story before all this went down, sparking conspiracy theories about his death and making folks wonder if it was really an accident.